Surveillance cameras capture every moment in prison, yet some female inmates seem oblivious to this fact. These women, caught in the act of some shocking behavior, remind us that their actions are always being watched, and that sometimes the consequences can be heavy. So here are some females who forgot, or maybe ignored, prison cameras. Honduras prison case.
Fire department spokesman in Honduras who says he witnessed horrific scenes as he and his crew battled the fire.
Our families waited desperately for news of their loved ones.
Angry relatives want answers after at least 41 people were killed. They say they haven't been told if their loved ones are among the dead.
More than 40 women have died following a prison riot in Honduras. Video from the area shows plumes of black smoke rising over the facility. Gang members entered a section of this woman's prison where rival gang members were held. Then inmates were shot and others were burnt in the facility. June 20th, 2023, a group of women allegedly linked to the infamous Barrio 18 gang set a fire at the National Women's Penitentiary for social adaptation in Tamara, Honduras. The attackers also fired guns at other women, starting a bloody riot that claimed the lives of at least 46 women. These attackers were said to have smuggled 18 pistols, 1 assault rifle, machetes, and 2 grenades into this facility with the help of some corrupt prison wardens. This attack was just one more headline in the growing gang tension that had been underestimated by Honduran authorities. You see, the Honduran government had imprisoned more people than ever in recent years in an effort to curb the rampant gang violence that has plagued the country for too long. However, these gangs, though locked behind bars, wield broad control inside the country's prisons, where inmates are often setting their own rules and selling contraband. As such, the government tried clamping down on their power in these prisons, and the result? Well, the result was this attack. The entire ordeal was caught by CCTV in the facility, but the majority of it was withheld by the government due to its very disturbing nature. Now, according to some insider information, these attackers removed guards from the facility at around 8 a.m. that morning. Then they silently opened the gates to an adjoining cell block and began the massacre. They scorched the cell walls and bunks were reduced to twisted heaps of metal. 26 of the victims were burned to death and the remainder were shot or stabbed. Some footage caught in the aftermath shows dozens of women getting hauled off by paramedics, while their family members cry out for the loss of their loved ones. You see, this area of the prison was one of Central America's most powerful gangs, MS-13's area, and most of the women here burnt to death. Now, while this area was gutted by fire, some other women who weren't gang members were also gunned down simply for being housed in this wing. But here's something crazy. The incident was the second worst disaster ever recorded in history, with the first occurring back in 2012, when 361 inmates died in a fire caused by an unknown source. Might have also been tied to some gang activity, we never know. Tori T. Smith. In the case of 31-year-old Tori Smith, her failed attempt at a jailbreak seemed like something you'd see out of Hollywood action movies. It was like a movie. It was all caught on camera. November 2009, Tori Smith had been brought into the jailhouse as she was booked on an aggravated battery charge related to an incident with her boyfriend. During the booking process, a New Orleans police officer failed to secure 2 doors leading to the jail's central lockup area. This officer, who had booked another suspect 45 minutes earlier, was in a rush to retrieve an affidavit he had left behind. This footage shows the officer entering the facility, holding the outside door open behind him, and slowly closing it without fully engaging the lock. He repeated this with the interior door, and about a minute later, Smith, who had told the jail staff that she was headed to the bathroom, approached the door leading to the transfer room, pushed it open, and then swiftly exited through the outer door of the jail. It was pretty slick, but just like the title of this video, she forgot prison cameras were everywhere. Smith was then seen on the 2800 block of Perdido Street, climbing an outside fence. The video would lose sight as she scales the fence and continues her escape. A nurse at the jail spotted Smith climbing the fence and alerted deputies, bringing her freedom to a quick end. She was captured the next day at Huntington Park Apartments on Crowder Boulevard and rebooked into the jail both on a battery charge and an additional charge of simple escape. What a way to get your sentence raised. Amber Gonzalez. This is Amber Gonzalez, the real-life Catwoman, because her viral jailbreak mirrors that iconic character. September 14, 2018, Amber Gonzalez, 30 years old from Waukesha, was arrested for allegedly stealing a cell phone from a cleaning cart at the Baymont Inn on Moreland Boulevard. After her arrest, Gonzalez was taken to the Waukesha police station on Delafield Street. There, the officers told her that she needed to post bail for this outstanding warrant related to an earlier drug paraphernalia charge from August. Otherwise, she would be transferred to the county jail. While in the holding area of the station, Gonzalez was handcuffed to the wall and was briefly left unattended. Worried about going to jail and being separated from her children, she slipped out of those handcuffs in pure Catwoman style and tried to open the holding room door, which was locked. She looks around for the keys and finds them hanging on the door handle, which she uses to escape that station at around 4:40 p.m., taking those keys with her. Gonzalez runs through nearby backyards, evading police, and eventually reaches the tobacco outlet plus groceries on Pewaukee Road. There, she used her cell phone to call a man to pick her up in a white SUV. They head off to the Baymont Inn, where she performs oral sex on him in exchange for $80. However, employees at the tobacco outlet told the police that Gonzalez had been picked up by this man, and staff at Baymont Inn reported that she had returned to the hotel where she had been arrested earlier. When police get to the hotel, they see this 63-year-old man leaving her room. After questioning him, he initially claims that they had met 2 weeks earlier and had been communicating casually. But under pressure, he admitted that they met for prostitution. Armed with this information, the police force opened the door and rearrest Gonzalez. This time, she was taken to the county jail and released on a $500 signature bond. Her initial felony escape charge carried a potential sentence of 6 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. However, Gonzalez was ultimately sentenced to 2 years of probation. Bridget Harvey. News alert, this is caught on camera. An inmate attacking a Hillsborough County deputy. The inmate, now watch right here, attacked the deputy from behind, putting a pillowcase around her neck. This was the moment an inmate at the Hillsborough County Detention Center was caught on camera as she attempted to choke out a corrections deputy. Around 1 a.m. on June 7, 2022, 42-year-old Bridget Harvey approached Deputy Lillian Jimenez, claiming that another inmate required assistance. But as they headed towards the women's bathroom to check on the mentioned inmate, tragedy struck. A little background here. Bridget Harvey had been incarcerated on charges of home invasion, armed robbery, petty theft, and possession of a controlled substance. The inmate used as a decoy, 37-year-old April Colvin, also faced charges of petty theft, possession of a controlled substance, resisting an officer without violence, trespassing, and loitering. But despite their criminal records, no one would have seen this coming. Once the officer got to the bathroom, Harvey suddenly attacked from behind, wrapping a pillowcase around her neck and attempting to strangle her. As the assault unfolded, other inmates rushed to assist the deputy, removing the pillowcase and freeing her from Harvey's grip. Harvey was held down until the ER team arrived moments later. Deputy Jimenez sustained minor injuries to her neck and throat, but nothing major. As for Harvey, she later admitted that she had planned the attack and intended to use a comb, one she had sharpened with her teeth, to stab Jimenez to death. As a consequence for this, Harvey faced additional charges, including aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer with a weapon, introducing contraband into a detention facility, and 2 counts of attempted escape. Colvin was also charged as a co-conspirator. Shannon Hoffman. In this footage, we can see a female inmate, Shannon Hoffman, getting assaulted by an Ontario Provincial Police veteran for doing absolutely nothing wrong. September 7, 2019, 49-year-old Shannon was brought to the station in Orillia, Ontario, on charges of public intoxication at a nearby Studebaker's beachside bar. However, half an hour later, she was taken to the holding cell, where security cameras recorded one of the most bizarre cases of police brutality by a female officer. The officer in question is Bailey Nichols, an 8-year Ontario Provincial Police veteran. And from this footage, Officer Nichols, as you can see on your screen, got increasingly frustrated with Hoffman as she struggled to take off her necklace. Nichols then violates her code of conduct by violently ripping apart that woman's necklace, breaking it due to her impatience. Hoffman's visibly angry about it, but Nichols doesn't stop there. She goes on to force Hoffman's ring off that middle finger. But when Hoffman pulls away and grabs Nichols' wrist, well then, Nichols pushes her back against the bars and places her right hand on Hoffman's throat. Nichols held this innocent woman there for 4 seconds while she struggled to remove the officer's hand. At this point, another officer appears and intervenes to assist Nichols by removing her colleague's hand from her neck and placing Hoffman inside that cell area. Moments later, Hoffman's on video touching the back of her head and pulling her hand away to reveal blood. Paramedics were called and she was taken to the hospital to get treated for the cut on the back of her head. Her injury due to the altercation with Nichols was so severe that it required 5 staples to close it. This was initially covered up and, quite frankly, Hoffman had let go of attempting to press charges until she found out that this whole thing was caught on camera. January 2021, Officer Nichols was charged with assault, causing bodily harm, and during her court hearing, the judge made known the fact that Nichols was cleaning up the blood in the cell and removing the bloody toilet paper left behind. Other documents also show that she roughly waited 20 minutes before contacting her supervisor about the incident, and also failed to complete a mandatory use of force report. On top of this, she would go ahead and deny everything, even with compelling evidence against her, which was pretty troubling. Even the judge noted that. Consequently, she was found guilty of that charge and sentenced accordingly. Edna Mahan, Women's Prison. State Attorney General's Office. Now releasing video of what they say is a night of assaults by correctional officers against female prison inmates. It happened in January inside the state's only prison for women, Edna Mahan Correctional Facility in Hunterdon County. I wasn't even doing nothing, y'all were just punching. Oh fuck, y'all need to punch on the people that was punching, shouted one of the inmates. September 2022, 14 guards at New Jersey's only prison for women were indicted in connection with a violent and brazen 2021 midnight raid, leaving dozens of women in shock and 2 with serious injuries. This raid was by far one of the most ruthless uses of force by prison guards ever caught on camera. But there's more to this story than you think. This particular prison had a history of inmates getting attacked by guards and vice versa. There have been issues of sexual abuse stemming from this facility, along with captured footage of inmates throwing feces and urine at guards to get their attention. You might be wondering, Why would they even do that? The simplest answer is to get the guards' attention. Women here are often overlooked, and only on very rare occasions are they ever checked up on or have their needs met. The complaints from this place are out of control, so much so that the past governor of New Jersey announced in 2021 that he had planned to close the prison and relocate these women to smaller lockups. However, before his plan could be carried out, tragedy struck. At around midnight on January 11, 2021, some female inmates who probably forgot about the cameras around the corner were seen pouring what seemed to be a mix of urine and other substances out of their cells. This action prompted more than a dozen correctional officers to don their riot gear, enter the cells, and forcibly remove the women suspected of throwing these substances. One woman was pinned to the wall of her cell and punched 28 times as she tried to shield her face, leading to a concussion and a fractured orbital bone below her eye. These officers then fractured the skull of another woman who had complied with orders to let herself be handcuffed, leaving boot imprints on her body and face. Finally, in this 1.5-hour plus video, officers pepper sprayed a woman who hadn't resisted at all before brutally extracting her and dragging her down the hallway. In the end, many officers submitted false reports about what really happened, including one who claimed that the victim was throwing punches towards his torso, a claim that wasn't supported by what was seen in the footage recorded by another officer's body cam. Thanks to the surveillance footage, these lies were exposed. In the end, 14 officers were indicted on charges ranging from record tampering and official misconduct to aggravated assault. This indictment accused these officers of planning the raid for the sole purpose of punishing and intimidating the female inmates. They were each handed sentences ranging from 5 to 10 years, along with a fine of $150,000. Malika Calhoun. She wasn't really a female inmate, but a correction officer's reaction to her attitude was crazy enough to make it into this video. In November 2018, Malika Calhoun was arrested and held in a cell at SeaTac City Hall for an auto theft investigation. During the booking process, 31-year-old Deputy Paul Sheen had an issue with her attitude. Sheen claimed that she had been uncooperative in the holding area, and when she was placed in the cell, he asked her to remove her shoes. Video shows that she kicked one shoe off, after which Sheen lunged at her, pushing her against the wall. After forcefully shoving her, he grabs her by the hair and slams her to the floor. Another deputy in there, a trainee, entered the cell as Sheen held Malika's face down. The video also shows Sheen striking Calhoun before lifting her and leading her out. Despite this altercation, Malika was never charged with a crime, and Sheen's actions were seen as assault. Consequently, Sheen was given a charge of 4th-degree assault, while the trainee wasn't charged. Sheen pled not guilty, arguing that Malika had assaulted him with her shoe and he acted in self-defense. By July 2010, the case was dropped after 2 trials ended in hung juries. In the first trial, the jury was deadlocked 11-1 for conviction, and in the second, it was split 11-1 for acquittal. Given the lack of a unanimous verdict, prosecutors decided not to pursue a third trial, leaving Sheen a free man. Stephen Harris. This one isn't about a female inmate forgetting there are cameras everywhere, but rather about a sexually depraved prison warden going to great lengths to satisfy his fetishes. You see, 56-year-old Stephen Harris, a father of 2, was the chief warden at the Maidstone prison in Kent, England. He'd worked at this place for 15 years, and his record was pretty clean. But that story was about to change for the worse. In 2020, Mr. Harris began having an affair with an inmate named Ella Ward. Their secretive meetings, frequent and unusually long conversations, and the exchange of personal notes quickly drew suspicion from other staff members and inmates. A secret camera was placed in Harris's office to confirm or deny suspicions of this inappropriate relationship. By September 8, 2020, the secret camera captured Harris sitting at a desk while he kissed and held hands with this inmate. The next day, they repeated the same thing, kissing for 20 seconds, and in this case, you could see him take her hand and move it somewhere inappropriate. On September 14th, the two held hands for longer than 10 minutes while Harris sat at his desk. As she was leaving his office, Harris gave her a slap, which was extremely inappropriate. This continued for more than a week until the camera was retrieved and the footage handed over to the police on September 18th, 2020. Subsequently, Mr. Harris was arrested as he finished his shift at the prison and taken into custody. True to form, he denied the allegations until they showed him the footage. At that point, he admitted to misconduct in public office, but told prosecutors that their relationship only lasted 10 days and that there wasn't any sexual intercourse. He immediately quit his job, and of course, his wife filed for divorce. As he was taken to court, the judge presiding over the case, Shani Barnes, commented, "What you have done could have had devastating consequences. Women in your care were vulnerable, and you should have been above reproach." Mr. Harris was fortunate not to receive jail time, but was sentenced to 100 hours of unpaid community work and ordered to pay $350 in court costs. Do you think the judge was too lenient? Let us know in the comments. Tracy Mobley and Mary Morrissey. Forgetting about cameras, two female inmates, Tracy and Mary, tried orchestrating a brazen prison escape from the Franklin County Courthouse in Columbus, Ohio. On July 11, 2005, after an arraignment at said courthouse, these two women slipped under the bus meant to convey them and a group of others back to the jail. Tracy, 39 years old at the time, was brought in for aggravated theft, while her accomplice, 40-year-old Morrissey, was held on DUI charges. Their luck was that their legs were free and only their hands were shackled to each other. They sneaked to the side, waited to be at the back of the line, and just like that, vanished from the view of security cameras. About 20 seconds later, Morrissey was captured by another surveillance camera, but this time she was alone. We don't know how she did it, but she was able to break free from Mobley, and her escape plan was almost perfect. The only downside was her timing. When she got out from beneath the bus, a private detective named Terry Meyer chased after her. Mobley also got off at some point and was busted by another detective named Amy Morris, who was on her way to the court that morning. They both were returned to jail, and an extra charge of felony escape was added to their already pending cases. Breon King. And now we have a shocking moment, but from outside prison walls. We present the disturbing case of Breon King, a school teacher from Austin, Texas. She was captured on dash cam being violently handled by two police officers. Take a look. June 15th, 2015, 26-year-old African-American, second-grade school teacher Breon King was driving on Austin Street when she sped past Officer Bryant Richter, who was sitting in a patrol car using his radar gun. Dashcam video shows that after she passed the officer, he pursued her for about 30 seconds, but didn't catch up with her until she finally pulled into a Wendy's parking lot. That's when the real drama unfolded. King got out of her car and headed toward the restaurant, but stopped when Richter asked her to get back in her car. He walked towards her and told her to get back in again. She did, but apparently didn't close the door. He asked for her driver's license, which King confirmed was underneath the seat. But before she could pull it out, Richter violently pulled her out of the car and slammed her to the ground. King, obviously not resisting, was roughly handled by this cop as she yelled for help.
My God! Put your hands behind your back. Oh my God! Put your hands behind your back. You are under arrest. Put your hands behind your back.
At one point, she stood up, but Richter again used brute force to tackle her to the ground. He put a set of cuffs on her and yanked her back up as another officer ran into the picture. While that in itself was incriminating enough, the violence against King didn't end there. As she was taken back to the station in the patrol car, the second officer, Patrick Spratt, Madeline, trying to make King understand why she was treated that way, made some racist comments, which, of course, were caught on camera. Miss King was later released and never filed a complaint with the police. The footage later resurfaced as one of the officers was again involved in another police brutality case. After this footage went viral, the Austin police chief, Art Acevedo, personally apologized to Miss King for what had happened to her. Shockingly, the main officer, Brian Richter, was dismissed. Prosecutors declined to press charges on him, but at least Miss King was settled for $425,000 by the Austin City Council.